Today we're going to look at some stories about asbestos that date back thousands of years, stories that some have called the Legends of Asbestos. I'm asbestos attorney Justinian Lane, and today's legend is Charlemagne washed his tablecloth in fire. In the year 800 AD, Charlemagne's empire was threatened by an Arabian known as Harun al-Rashid. So great was the power of Harun's army that Charlemagne knew that to war with him was to court disaster. Having invited representatives of Harun to dine with him, the emperor resorted to a clever bit of strategy. After the feast was over, Charlemagne flung the soiled tablecloth into the fire, then drew it back cleaned and unharmed. Harun's representatives were mystified and returned to their leader to warn him not to war with the emperor since he possessed magic powers and was therefore invincible. Little did the men of Harun suspect that Charlemagne's tablecloth was woven of unburnable asbestos fibers. Thus, an asbestos tablecloth saved an empire. Asbestos products today serve a different kind of empire, industrial empires that depend on asbestos products for 1,000 practical purposes. Before we talk about the legend of the asbestos tablecloth, let's give a little historical background. Before France and Germany became their own countries with their own identities, both geographic regions were inhabited by the Franks, a Germanic tribe who ruled over portions of the remnants of the Western Roman Empire. The word France is actually derived from the Franks, which should give you some idea of how important the Franks were to the development of modern-day Europe. One of the most important Franks was a nobleman named Charles Martel. In the year 732, the Islamic Caliphate that was based in Spain was on the march and aimed to conquer Frankish territory. On October 10th of 732, the Islamic army of Abdul Rahman al-Ghafiqi was defeated by Charles Martel's army during the Battle of Tours, which took place near the modern-day city of Tours in France. Al-Ghafiqi was killed in the battle, and his troops retreated back to the Caliphate in Spain. Had Martel not defeated al-Ghafiqi, all of Western Europe might have become part of the Caliphate. We'll never know, of course. What we do know is that Charles Martel had a son named Pepin the Short, who succeeded his father as ruler of the Franks, and who was crowned king of the Franks by Pope Zachary in 751. Pepin's father ruled over the Franks with the title Mayor of the Palace, which did not convey any religious authority. When the Pope anointed Pepin as king, that established a dynasty that is known as the Carolingian dynasty. Pepin may have been king, but the dynasty was named after his father, since Carolingian comes from the Latin form of the name Charles, which is Carolus. Pepin named his eldest son after Charles Martel, and we today know that son as Charlemagne. Charlemagne, in fact, comes from the French phrase Charles le Magne, which means Charles the Great. On Christmas Day in the year 800, Pope Leo coronated Charlemagne as emperor. So let's put all of this in context with the legend of the asbestos tablecloth. Charlemagne was the grandson of the man who defeated the forces of the Umayyad Caliphate in 732 and therefore helped prevent the spread of Islam into Western Europe. You would assume that Muslim al-Rashid wouldn't have been very friendly with Christian Charlemagne, right? Well, the Umayyad Caliphate was overthrown in 750 by a group known as the Abbasids, who established their own caliphate, which was named after them. The Abbasids killed most of the family of the rulers of the Umayyad Caliphate, but not all. Some of them escaped to Spain and set up a new caliphate in 756 that was known as the Caliphate of Cordoba and was a political rival to the Abbasids during the time of Charlemagne. Al-Rashid had a strong motive to want diplomatic relations with Charlemagne to help ensure that the Umayyads wouldn't come back to Baghdad, where the Abbasids were based. Charlemagne wanted to weaken the Caliphate of Cordoba based in Spain, so from his perspective, who better to align with than Al-Rashid and the Abbasids? So when Al-Rashid and Charlemagne met for dinner, they both wanted to impress the other and form an alliance to thwart the Caliphate of Cordoba. Charlemagne's asbestos tablecloth would have absolutely done the trick. In my imagination, Charlemagne and Al-Rashid were trying to one-up each other, and Charlemagne wins by using his magic tablecloth. The trouble is that this story may be imaginary because there's only anecdotal evidence that Charlemagne had such a tablecloth. He could have, though, and that's probably why this legend persists to this day.